Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another double take. Today we're going to look at two films co-starring and starring one of the great character actors of all time, almost the American version of Robert Shaw as far as he died way too young, and that's of course Warren Oates. At some point you just have to accept the fact you'll never be as cool as Warren Oates. So we're going to look at The Hired Hand, a 1971 film where he co-stars with Peter Fonda, and Peter Fonda directed the film. He directed 3 films in his time. And the Peck and Pa classic, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, which is absolutely wonderful. I mean, I hadn't seen this in decades and I finally got around to watching it. It's now available in 4K from Shout Select, I believe. But it is absolutely magnificent. It's between after Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid and before the Killer Elite. You know, people talk about Peck and Pa, and he's fighting with everybody, but mostly himself. But he did make 10 films in a 9-year run, which is pretty impressive when you consider the quality of films that he made. But again, this isn't a Peck and Pa video, this is a Warren Oates video. So I'll start with 1971's The Hired Hand, where he co-stars with Peter Fonda, but it's not really... this is an Arrow Academy in the days where they did DVDs and Blu-rays, and the classic reversible artwork. But this isn't an example of the director star Peter Fonda kind of hogging all the limelight. It's almost an equal parts with Warren Oates. It also co-stars Werner Bloom. It's a very small film. Shot by Vilmos Zsigmond, one of the great cinematographers. It has that look of old photographs. I guess it would be kind of classed as a post-western. But looking at it now, it's just absolutely wonderful. Fonda goes for the editing where there's no kind of clean cuts or transitions. It just really dissolves into each other, and it just has this wonderful atmosphere and feel, which strangely enough Bring the Head of Alfredo Garcia has as well. It's a really simple story about 3 men who are out fishing and just kind of out in the world doing what cowboys did in their days, and they get into trouble. They come across Severin Darden, is that his name? You'll recognise his face. I think it's Severin Darden. It could be Darden Severin. I think it's Severin Darden, and his group of degenerates, and 3 become 2, and because of this event Peter Fonda and Warren Oates kind of think maybe it's time to kind of go home, or Peter Fonda specifically decides maybe it's time to go home because realise that Peter Fonda left a wife played by Werner Bloom who's older than him, and a daughter, even though the daughter doesn't know who her father is. So they're tired of the cowboy life and the wandering and drifting life, and they want, well, especially Peter Fonda wants to kind of put down his roots. So he goes back and obviously gets a fairly frosty reception from Werner Bloom, but he just wants to be taken on as a hired hand and help round the property. I was going to say a farm, but it's not really a farm. Just round the property, and Warren Oates kind of helps out too. There's rumours in the town that Werner Bloom would take in quite a lot of hired hands and take them into her bed as well. And there's kind of a bit of sexual tension between her and Warren Oates. I mean, why not? It would be impossible not to have magnetism towards Warren Oates. So he decides to kind of move on and leave Werner Bloom and Peter Fonda to kind of figure it out. But of course the past catches up with them. It's just a wonderful, beautiful film. You know, it's not fast paced, but it's not slow either. It just takes its time. It's directed with a real confidence, and again the use of dissolves to transition from scene to scene is really well done. It's got another kind of laconic score, and Fonda, who I've never really been a huge fan of, is very good, but it's really Warren Oates who steals the show, as he tended to do in a lot of his films, because he just gets so many wonderful expressions. I mean, we all remember the expression in The Wild Bunch when William Holden comes into where Warren Oates and Ben Jonson are mucking about with a couple of women, and William Holden says it's time to go, or let's go get Angel. And Warren Oates has that kind of narrowing of his eyes and then the kind of realisation of what that sentence actually means. So he's again, you'll never be as cool. Nobody will ever be as cool as Warren Oates. Warren Oates, Lee Van Cleef, you're never going to be as cool as them. So just stop trying. And he just has so many wonderful expressions on that weathered face. And a lot of the time in lots of his films he plays, the bad guy or the morally bankrupt guy. We'll get to that in a bit. But in this he's actually playing a decent guy. Obviously there are bad guys in the film, but Fonda and Oates are just playing decent guys who know what's right and what's wrong, and it's just a lovely little film. It's a wonderful release. It looks wonderful. There's a commentary by Peter Fonda. There's a 2003 documentary, Return of the Hired Hand, with Peter Fonda, DP Vilma Sigmund, composer Bruce Langhorne, actor Werner Bloom and others. There's deleted scenes, and The Odd Man, Charles Gormley and Bill Forsyth's 1978 documentary, Poet of Scottish Screenwriter, including Alan Sharp, and the novel The Hired Hand was written by Alan Sharp. There's an interview with Martin Scorsese on why Scorsese loves it, so again, if Scorsese loves it, you should love it too. And there's an audio recording of Warren Oates and Peter Fonda at the NFT in 1971, and you can kind of tell that Warren Oates is a little bit uncomfortable actually being in the spotlight. It's a wonderful interview, so it's an absolutely stacked release. I think you can still pick it up relatively cheaply, but I could be completely wrong. But it's well worth seeking out because it's just a beautiful little film for all the family. But going on to Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, this is probably not for all the family. This is an 18 because it's a Peckinpah film. But it's absolutely fantastic. I almost put it in my almost film of the year, but then I decided to do a double take instead because I just watched The Hired Hand as well. And you get a bonus disc as well as the feature film disc, but I'll go into that in a second because it's pretty amazing. So the film itself, we start not necessarily said as Mexico, but it kind of perhaps as Mexico, and the actor that plays the general in the Wild Bunch, he is this patriarch surrounded by armed guards, and he wants to know who has made his daughter pregnant. And of course it turns out to be Alfredo Garcia, not Warren Oates, in an amazing twist. It's not Warren Oates. It's a character called Alfredo Garcia. The film actually starts with a really idyllic scene of this pregnant teenager sitting on the side of a river. You know, it's just so peaceful, so you know, this being Peckinpah, it's probably not going to last very long, or she'll explode. She doesn't actually explode. But pretty much the word is out. I want to get Alfredo Garcia. Obviously he worked for this character and has let him down badly by impregnating his daughter. And he wants the head as proof, strangely enough. So we see kind of a general disbursement, and then we see two characters, one Robert Webber, or the sales executive from 12 Angry Men, and Gig Young, who again you'll recognise, but this is an unusual role for him. And I think it's kind of hinted at that they're probably homosexual hitmen themselves. There's a truly terrifying scene where you see all these people trying to find Alfredo Garcia, and they end up in Warren Oates' bar, who is playing the piano and is probably the boss, I think, possibly. And then a couple of women come over to Gig Young and Robert Webber, and Robert Webber elbows one of them in the face, dropping her to the ground unconscious, which won't do any favours for the idea that Peckinpah was a misogynist, as he has a slow kind of look at the woman on the ground. The camera kind of sits on her for a little bit too long. And Warren Oates is a bit of a sleazebag, and is kind of desperate for money, and he ends up going to his girlfriend, who seems to be a prostitute, who has recently seen Alfredo Garcia and is to try and track him down. And then he goes to the office of these minions and middlemen to say, I'll find him for the money, and he's given 4 days or they'll come looking for him. And again, as with all Peckinpah films, I mean, this one's 113 minutes. You could make the argument it could be shorter, but you're just kind of steeped in this world of tequila and cigarettes and chickens. And because it's Warren Oates, who actually gets a film almost to himself, you know, he's the lead when he's always been kind of a supporting character. It's just wonderful, and he's off-white suit. So originally he and his girlfriend just kind of take off and hope to get married, and they just chill and relax. They're put upon by Chris Christopherson and another guys, a couple of bikers who want to have their way with the nice lady, which obviously doesn't please Warren Oates, but that's soon sorted. And then we finally reach where Alfredo Garcia is, but that's where I'll stop, just in case nobody has seen Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. I suppose it's not one of Peckinpah's most famous, I guess, but certainly the title is. And then obviously, you know, the vested interest all meet at the end. You know, Peckinpah kind of criticised for, you know, using slow motion a bit too much or whatever, but I really think in Alfredo Garcia he uses it really tastefully and really elegantly. So there'll be like two cars sliding towards each other, and he'll just do a couple of frames in slow motion. He won't do the whole thing, or somebody being shot. Spoiler alert: some people get shot. Again, he won't do the whole thing in slow motion. He'll just do a couple of really nice frames in slow motion. So he certainly doesn't use slow motion too much in this film that kind of loses its impact, if you will. So this is a 4K restoration. It looks fantastic. There's a commentary by Stephen Prince, and there's another commentary by Peckinpah scholars Paul Sedor, Garner Simmons and David Weddell, moderated by Nick Redman. There's the Sam Peckinpah Man of Iron, Paul Joyce's feature-length 1993 documentary, which features James Coburn, Chris Christopherson, Monty Hellman, Ali McGraw, Jason Robards, David Warner and others. This is the first time it's actually available in the UK. There's a John Player lecture with Peckinpah, which again is kind of fascinating. There's 4 songs by Chris Christopherson, filmed during the making of Man of Iron, and there's a trailer. But the second disc has actually got an extended version of Man of Iron, which is more than 10 hours. You heard that right. It's more than 10 hours of the extended interviews with R.G. Armstrong, James Coburn, L.Q. Jones, Chris Christopherson, Ali McGraw, Jason Robards, Monty Hellman, producers Michael Dealey, Daniel Melnick, writers Alan Sharp and Jim Silkey, writer-producer Gordon Dawson, assistant Catherine Haber, editor Garth Craven, satirist Mort Sahl, property master Bob Vicelia, bar owner Tom Runyon and cousin Bob Peckinpah, and newly shot interviews with Joyce Haber and David Warner. So I mean, the second disc is an amazing chunk of Peckinpah. I mean, James Coburn says a really insightful thing about, you know, the producers of the Peckinpah films that Peckinpah always fought with and stuff like that. They never understood, you know, to them you just shoot the script and that's your film, and your script, well, that'll take a day, that'll take half a day, blah blah blah, and that's how you get your schedule. Whereas Peckinpah kind of destroyed the script and made the film and how the film would come together. He would never just shoot a script, he would make a film, which sounds really simple, but the way kind of James Coburn describes it, you can see that's why producers kind of got annoyed, and then Peckinpah would get annoyed at them for pushing them, because he was always after the truth and the truth of the scene. So it's not necessarily just shooting what's on the page, you still have to get to that point. I mean, obviously I haven't watched all 10 hours of the interviews, but I've watched a few with James Coburn and R.J. Armstrong, and David Warner and Jason Robards. But if you can still get this edition, I'm not sure you can, but as I said, there's a 4K coming out. It's just a beautiful film. It's another beautiful, ugly film, as quite a lot of Peckinpahs are. And I think after watching it again after so long, I think this might be one of my favourite Peckinpahs. Warren Oates is just absolutely magnetic. Again, he's got expressions for days. You know, he can do kind of pain and bewilderment, I can't even say it, bewilderment and anger and confusion, like all in 5 seconds, just using his face. Yeah, just such a shame that he died so young. I think he was 54, which is round about the same kind of age as Robert Shaw died. Yeah, just an icon, very much like Lee Van Cleef, just an iconic actor who really gets a chance to shine and bring the head of Alfredo Garcia. But he's also wonderful in a kind of low-key, actually nice guy performance, along with Peter Fonda and Werner Bloom in this lovely little quiet western, which does have a couple of eruptions, but on the whole it's really quiet, unlike Alfredo Garcia, which is fairly explosive, but it's just so good. Yeah, Peckinpah, sometimes you always do. So thanks so much for watching this episode of Double Take. Please let me know if you've seen these two Warren Oates films and what you think of it, or what Warren Oates film would you recommend. I know I did a random review of China 9 Liberty 37, which was excellent as well, directed by Monty Hellman, with Warren Oates in pretty much a starring role. Yeah, what a character in more ways than one. So thanks so much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.